people in the Catholic Church, good, got it. That they think it's a complementary or a parallel way. The words are not okay, but they said Buddhism, when you study Buddhism, you understand Catholicism better. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's very compatible, very much compatible. Rodrigo, how did you start with Zen?
I was living in Los Angeles in St. Joseph's Church on 12 in Los Angeles. And then I wanted to go into meditation, with silent meditation with no thoughts. So I went to my superior and asked, and he said he didn't know anything about it. Then I went to Orthodox Church that is very powerful, I will say, in Los Angeles County. And they said, we have the books, but we don't practice. So I discovered there was a sort of school in Little Tokyo in Los Angeles, and I started going to the temple. And the priest there, after a while, said, it seems like you want more, not just sitting. And I said, yeah, I'm looking for a teacher. And he said, well, Maosumi he wasn't say anything by that time, have this Zen center. So I started going to the Zen center almost every morning. And that's when Genpo was there, and Yoko, Charlotte, Beck, and this other guy that is Jewish, he went up to New York. A lot of people came from that time. That's how I started.
And how's it affected your Catholic practice?
I think that I'm more than a Catholic. I think the circle is very wide, so it helps me a lot because I don't like to define God. I think that is impossible. So what I'm more interested is in the praxis, and Zen gives me this praxis. I learned it from Maosumi Roshi, and so I do it that way. Yeah, which is, I think, your way, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then came Big Mind with Genpo. That was kind of new. But I feel at home with both practices.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think there's any way to define God, is there?
Yeah.
But I recently heard someone talking about there was a long discussion about sort of processing loss, and he sort of made the connection that most of the time we just worry about loss and we don't really accept it. We don't really fully accept things we can't avoid in life, pain and uncertainty and, constant work.
Mm-hmm.
But he made an interesting statement that if you really accept the sort of inevitability of those things, of pain and of uncertainty and constant work, that by accepting those things, you can see God. Not quite sure how that works, but it was about just letting go of thinking that I'm going to figure it all out, or that
Yes.
somebody else has got it all figured out. And a lot of times people we look up to, we think that they have somehow found freedom from the kind of problems that we have,
Mm-hmm.
that they figured it all out. But you have to kind of accept that they haven't gotten it all figured out. You can still look up to them for whatever things. But one of the things in Zen practice, I think, is actually letting go of the idea that you're going to figure it all out.
Right. Yeah, when you figure it all out, that is not the Tao or the Dharma.
Yeah.
So there are no words to describe. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Rodrigo.
You're welcome. Thank you for letting me be part of this.
Oh, I'm happy to. Anybody else have anything?
Just that reminded me of something. Sorry, I just spoke. Is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead. I'll call
Just right, just talking about someone in a sort of position of power, like that knows what's going on, that you think you project on them that they know what's going on. I was watching a talk with Eckhart Tolle, and he's in the big room sitting in the front, and someone said to him, well, you're up there, and we have all these problems. And he responded, I don't live in this chair. And I was like, yeah,
Great answer.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's all. Yeah.
that's a great story. It's so true. I mean, we project so many things on everyone, right? That they're above us or they're below us, or and we project things on ourselves about where we stand in some sort of crazy pecking order, right? It's all part of the dualistic thinking, of course, and the world of suffering that the Buddha dedicated his life to helping us figure that part out anyway. Madhushri?
Yeah. Hi.
Hi.
I respond so yeah, how can you say? I have so many things coming up when I'm joining these things, and it just keeps on going, and it's quite overwhelming actually sometimes. So do you have any advice, or maybe it's like Camille said with Eckhart Tolle, I'm living in this terror, or but yeah, it's not so precise, I know, but it's yeah.
Well, if you think about how much is out there that we can try to figure out, I mean, of course it's overwhelming. Right?
Yeah, because it comes up from so deep. After last Saturday, it was from a past life or something, and it was whoa.
Yeah. And feeling overwhelmed is not a good feeling, right? That's kind of how I came into the class this morning, because I was busy doing a bunch of other things and totally forgot I was late for my class today. And I've been feeling a bit overwhelmed. But when it comes to questions, interior questions and things, when we're trying to figure it all out. And first, just the idea that, just holding on to the idea that we can figure it all out is a bit of a problem. So if we can let go of that, then we can say, then maybe it's a little bit more manageable, but then there's still a lot of things to try to figure out. But and we should work on those things. But in Zen practice, there's a lot of talk about letting go. And so letting go of that idea that we can figure it all out, letting go of the idea that everything's going to be okay, is, I mean, it's kind of scary to think about letting that go, because, well, maybe things will fall apart even more if I don't try to figure it all out.
Yeah.
And yet, that's all this grasping and trying to hold,
Mm.
right? And what's the opposite of that? To let go, you let go of trying to hold, but what's left is you have everything to give. Giving is what's left. And that's that's the first paramita, right? Is generosity and giving. And Genpo Roshi stresses that one very much. And I think it's because how can we give when we're trying to get all the time?
Mm.
Right?
Yeah.
And so by letting go, by stopping grasping, by that we open up this huge amount of energy to give, and we can still pursue things, we can still have goals, but we have to be willing to not get it. We have to be willing not to have it, and that gives a certain freedom too. I think sometimes students will ask, well, if I just if I give up everything, or I don't have these goals and everything, my life's really going to fall apart. I'm in this desperate situation of trying to get and to try to hold, trying to figure everything out. It's not sort of intuitive to see it this way, but when that's gone, the giving just gives us a ton of energy. And it doesn't mean that we'll just fall apart and quit our job and go live in a cave or something. We can still have goals, we can still try to achieve things, we can still try to figure things out. But if we give up the idea that or if we can be willing to not get it, even though we're working toward it, it clears the air a little bit and makes it sort of more clear how to actually work on something. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It does, because what I've been coming up is that I have to get it. I've been working so hard to get it for many years, and it's like it's not working. It's like a burden I have to carry, and it's just like I can't carry it anymore.
It's a huge burden, and and I think as we get older, it becomes more of a burden because we've picked up more things we think we need to figure out along the way, and we don't have the energy like we used to. So there's a certain way to maybe prioritize those things, and just give up the things that maybe aren't so important to try to get, and go ahead and work on the other things, but be willing to not get it. Work on it with no goal, with no expectation of reward, or
that's a hard one, because that actually the drive.
Yeah Not easy to say.
Yeah.
And in Zen practice, I mean, I think I don't know if it's this class or another class. There's a great book by Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche called Spiritual Materialism, and it's about when we have gone, we've accomplished, let's say, our sort of earthly or material goals, and that hasn't really satisfied us. We haven't got to that sort of final happiness place, and so we take up a spiritual practice, but we approach it the same way that we did trying to make money, right? That there's these steps and goals, and I have to get this, and I have to be acknowledged by the teacher that I'm, enlightened, or what stage of enlightenment am I at, and we're ranking ourselves, and everything is very materialistic in a spiritual practice, and it is a trap. And that needs to be gotten over too. And I think that's maybe what I'm kind of pointing to here is in our spiritual practice, we still have to say, be willing not to ever get it, and also to acknowledge that no one has ever really gotten it, because what is there to get? You know, we don't even know what we're getting, what we're trying to get, except we have this idea that I'll have this final spot where I'm just like, everything's great and I'm comfortable and everybody loves me, or what, you know, whatever all the things that we think we need to have to finally be ultimately happy. And there's just no ultimate happy. One of the insights I think that you know, the Buddha had that in our practice we talk about is, you know, the insight into impermanence, the sort of direct experience of impermanence. And that insight sort of shows that there's it's never ending and never beginning, you know, unborn and undying is what we say. And I know for a long time I struggled with this whole idea of unborn and undying. It was just didn't quite make sense to me. But you know, in an infinite universe, everything's, where did it begin and where did it end, and where did we begin and where did we end? It's more it focuses you back on just right now, trying to get give up, you know, these ideas of accomplishing some final goal.
Yeah, and it feels like it's the self or that's trying, and in a way it can see that it's, you know, it can't do it. But I don't know, is that the...
You're exactly right. It is the self trying to do it. And yet the self itself is an impermanent, unfixed thing. It's not a...
Yeah. But is it, I know maybe it's yeah, it sounds so banal, but I just have to ask, is it, yeah, is it okay for the self just to let it go?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Because I've really been trying to figure it all out, you know, so many ways, and I can just, you know, I can't do it anymore.
No.
Okay, so it's all right. I was just thinking I was just, you know, in a dead end or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just eat and sleep and wash the dishes and take care of yourself, and, you know, just live life. And that's what we have. And it's wonderful. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just like the self, you know, how can the world, or how can my life keep on going if I'm not involved? Yeah.
Well, and so you can also maybe let go of what it means to let go and just call it acceptance instead.
Yeah.
You know, true, fully acceptance and embracing the joy, the pain, the dirty dishes, the people around us, you know, because we're not trying to isolate ourselves from the world. That's just another mechanism that the self uses to protect itself.
Yeah.
So acceptance is really maybe more to the point. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm kind of winging it here, but my
Yeah.
feeling.
Yeah.
Just embrace it. You know, in Big Mind, we always say own the voice, you know, own it. That means accept it, embrace it, cherish it as your life.
Yeah. But sometimes, you know, it's just one thing after the other. And after I met Roshi, it's just, it's like a whole new layer that's just comes up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you, Madhushri. Thank you very much.
Mm.
Let's see, Colleen, I think was next, huh?
Morning. That was really beautiful, Madhushri. Thank you. And Bruce, I'm quite moved. Yeah, I was going to say something much lighter, but I'm in a very different place now. I was going to say thank you because starting late this morning was an opportunity for me to let go and accept, and also work with some voices like irritation with my internet because it's been going out a lot, and I'm like, and thinking, and then thinking it's me, like, what did I do to screw this up? And I'm looking at the time. So it was really kind of fun to back out, you know, to zoom out a little bit and go, oh, well, maybe Bruce has just got something going on. Maybe it's not me screwing stuff up.
It's not you. You're welcome to blame me. I'll fully accept
No,
that.
no blame. It's an acknowledgement that actually it was a gift to me because I got to play with this. So that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah. You know, and isn't every problem in life in a way a gift? Isn't every irritation, every frustration, every thing not going quite right, isn't that a gift of being able to go, okay, well, what am I going to do now? And am I going to just feel bad? Am I going to blame? Am I going to blame myself? Am I going to, you know, how am I reacting to something not occurring the way I expected it to occur? You know, expectations are such traps for us, aren't they? And every problem is an opportunity to go, how can I accept this? How can I move forward? What can I learn about myself or whatever? You know, because there is no place where everything is great all the time, perfect, you know. And if it was, then we wouldn't learn a thing. Wouldn't learn a thing. So it's always this is, I don't know how to say it even. It's always you know, we don't want these bad things, and yet the bad things that happen, or even just the minor little frustrations that happen, are just such opportunities. If we look at it that way, you know, if we're aware enough to go, okay, this isn't going right, and you know, how am I going to accept it? How am I going to deal? How am I going to move forward? So I like your story, Colleen. That was great. You know, and I wish I had the awareness to do that sometimes. I mean, it's, you know, in the heat of the moment, sometimes it's like something is so frustrating or so wrong that, you know, I lose my sense of awareness of where I'm at. And part of our practice is to kind of develop that ability to kind of step back for a second and go, okay, wait, before I get caught up in this whirlpool of thoughts and expectations and disappointment, whatever, you know, can I step back for a second and go, okay, this is this moment. What's the appropriate thing to do in this moment? And you did. So, mazel tov. Yeah. Anything else, Colleen? Okay, thank you. Rodrigo.
Boker Tov, Israel. I like that perfection also has imperfection. At least I I feel it that way. So
Yes.
not to get overwhelmed. So I want to tell a little story of a rooster that was in a very beautiful farm. And he was so happy because every morning he will sing and the sun will rise up. And he thought, this is magnificent. And then the owner came and sold it to somebody else. And he went far away to another farm. And he was very worried the whole night because he didn't know if the sun will rise up again. Thank you.
Yeah. There's so many wonderful stories, you know, that illustrate these things. And this is part of, you know, I always go back to, you know, Dogen says we need to study the way with the mind and the body. And these stories are a way to study with the mind and to take, you know, take points from them. And it's in every religion and folk wisdom and everything else. And it's good. These are wonderful things that help us show the way. Maria, how are you?
Yeah, hi. Yeah, I appreciate this very much. It was really a great experience. It's a moment of panic, you know. I am left behind, left alone in this whole universe. My Sangha is not here. I thought so funny. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yeah. But I wanted only to speak about being Jewish or being Catholic and how it influenced my Buddhist practice, because for many years I had this notion that I am better, I am something special, yeah? And I think it was really a great hindrance because there is no way to go this way. Maybe I would appreciate when somebody else can share the experience with how being having another religion, and my parents and my whole family is still Catholic, because they convert from Jewish to Catholic, and we don't have really a good good connection, just good because they think that I'm a kind of crazy, and I think they don't have any ideas, or we don't speak about, we don't touch this delicate question.
Mm-hmm.
It is pity, yeah, because yeah, we all in some way we want to do well, yeah, and it is what we have in common. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you feel like you need to connect with them in that way? Like they're missing out on something if they don't find Zen?
I didn't understand exactly what do you mean, the question.
I'm just wondering, you know, you said with your parents that they think you're a little crazy, and
Yes,
because of your Zen
Buddhist, yeah.
Buddhist, yeah.
Tibetan
And
Buddhism, it was worse, yeah, than Zen, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't often talk to people about my religion or, about
Okay.
Zen or Buddhism unless they ask about it. But I've definitely gotten over the years a lot of kind of funny looks when they find out.
Okay.
And yeah, I don't know what to do about it. Sometimes people will ask a question or two and it's hard to, without going on a long lecture, which they don't want to hear. Usually
Yes, exactly. They don't want here, yeah.
they don't want to hear. I don't know how you sum it up. I mean, I don't know how you would sum up the other way around. I mean, have you met someone who is Jewish and you never heard of it before, and he said, well, what is Judaism? I'm not sure how they would answer that very quickly either. I think yeah, it's just one of those things.
Yeah.
Here in the US, it's common to say that there's a couple different subjects you should never bring up over the dinner table with with politics and religion.
Politics and religion, yeah. It
Yeah.
is so pity, because they don't know they are Buddhas. Huh?
Yeah. And I always had a problem with that one, because those are kind of my two favorite topics, actually, is politics and religion. And I've gotten into hot water with both of them. So I don't know, it goes again, Maria, I think, to, what are our expectations in our life, for ourselves and for others. And, we set up so many, right? We have so many expectations of everyone and everything. It's not that it's wrong necessarily. It's just, we need to know we just need to recognize what we're doing and what kind of a trap that can be.
Yeah, Bruce, I dropped all the expectation for a while, but in this time I noticed that I'm happy to sit in my room and do nothing else, only sitting. It's a perfect life for me. And what about being bodhisattvas? You have to. You must have the minimum of expectation that you can connect with the people, and you have to offer something. No?
Well, that's quite an expectation right there. That we should be a bodhisattva, or think that we can be, or I don't know, those are all good things to look at. I mean, what are my expectations for myself, Do
Yes, tell me.
I don't know, I don't know I mean, of course, I mean, I expect to be on time for these meetings, but obviously that didn't work out. So
I couldn't imagine that it's your fault. I never, ever thought that it's your fault. Never.
I have
I'm really
accepted.
disappointed, bro.
Yeah.
I'm joking, of course. Yeah.
Let me let Cami in here. There's my wife and I. My wife is also Buddhist, and she's a chaplain as well. Works with people in hospice and that kind of thing. And we've kicked around this idea of the bodhisattva, and what is it really, and of course there's a number of koans about bodhisattvas and tons of writing and everything like that. I think that at least popular culture in the US, there's definitely a movement of people who feel like they need to be helping everyone else.
Yeah.
That's sort of bodhisattva vow. I vow to save all sentient beings, you know, which can be a fairly arrogant position,
Yes. Yeah,
right? Because it's like,
I agree.
I'm okay because I'm capable of saving all these people that are not okay.
Mhm.
You know, it's tricky.
Yes.
And can you actually benefit the world without expecting any results, without without expecting any reward, without expecting to save anyone? You know, I think is a precursor, or at least you have to be willing to accept that you're not going to do any good whatsoever before you can actually do any good.
Yeah.
Camille? I'm
It is
sorry.
a very important point. This one, not having expectations, not at all. It is a hard one. I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. It
Thank
goes
you.
against. Yeah, you're welcome, Maria. Camille?
Yeah, this is a topic that's kind of near to my heart because I know, yeah, when I first started really getting into Buddhism, I like really was into taking everyone along with me.
Yeah, of course. Me too.
And I really offended some of my friends.
Me too.
Yeah, like and you know, just furthering what you were saying, it's like, what the hell do any of us know about what someone else should be doing, you know? And I've had to learn this over and over again. um yeah, and it's very interesting, this conversation about religion, because I know so many people, because I was this person, they're just asking because they want to hear the word that triggers them. So they figured you out, you know? They're
Yeah.
like, "Oh, yeah, like that's what this person believes, and that's it." And it's funny, I guess, you know, whenever I kind of like had this moment with myself, and you know, kind of saw the truth. Yeah, I remember talking to my brother's wife, and she's like, it's okay. She's like, everyone gets more religious as they get older. I mean, she patted my hand. It was the most condescending thing.
Right.
But it is this what I found though is that speaking to because I was raised Catholic, and so if I heard anything to do, I would just like get angry when I passed by churches, you know, like I mean that's how hard I was about it. But yeah, I don't know, it's kind of like once you resonate with one truth, it's like you kind of see them all. I don't know. I find myself in situations with people of so many different faiths, and everything is so simple. Everything is so simple. It's like it's all the complexity is there from the dogma that humans put on it, but it's all the same thing, you know? Yeah.
So true.
And
So true. I mean, everything you said right now is, I mean, yeah. I mean, I used to, you know, it's like if you see a really good movie, you want to tell all your friends because you want them to see it too, right? And they may or may not be interested in it. And I've noticed, well, this is something from actually my back in my working days when I had to sell equipment. Is somebody told me one time, people buy in spite of the hard sell, not because of it. And which kind of made me realize, okay, then I don't need to you know, they're gonna, even if you hard sell them, if they want it bad enough, they're gonna buy it. But you know, it's an interesting thing. And so I think the same applies all the time. Whenever we're trying to convince somebody else to do something, you know, the first thing they're going to do is be skeptical and you know, hold off, right? And so our inclination when we get resistance is to like push harder, and they just push back harder, and It's awful. In a way, it's kind of the beauty of kind of this particularly Chinese and Japanese Zen way of dealing with students, is to not try to convince them of anything. As a matter of fact, is try to confuse them so they'll just like figure it out on their own in an artful way, right? And so we have these koans, like, you know, the monk's walking along and he sees Joshu in the field cutting flax, and he says, you know, what is the true Buddha? And Joshu says 3 pounds of flax, and the student is like, what? I don't get that. But he, you know, so he didn't sit there and try to convince the student, well, come over here, son, I'll explain to you what the Buddha is. You know, he just put a question. He kept the student questioning all the time. And because had he started saying, well, this is what the Buddha is, and, you know, you should believe this, because this is really true, and I've been doing it for a long time, and it's really great for me, and so it'll be great for you, and, you know, this kind of natural thing. And yeah, I mean, all those things are true. And I know you're saying, like, you know, you had this realization, right, when you saw all these churches and you got angry. You had some kind of realization about churches and about all of that, and you know, and the actualization of that realization was what you just said, right? It changed your view of it forever, and you can never go back to what your previous view was, because now you've had this realization. And that's kind of the mechanics of how we grow, right?
Yeah, and it's oh yeah, I'm back. Yeah, and it's quite funny because my brother, he has kids, and you know, the wife that I told you about that said, oh yeah, everyone gets more religious as they get older.
Yeah.
And they're so atheist, like they really like raise their flag on it, like it's yeah. And we were in the car and someone mentioned something about a priest, and my niece said, what is a priest? And she's like 11 years old, and I was like, come on, like this is just a bit ignorant actually.
Yeah.
But what's funny for me is I know that they're kind of othering it so much that these kids are probably going to turn out really religious. I was like, do you know anything about child psychology or just human psychology? Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah. So funny. We're funny people. Hey, you know, I did want to mention something that, you know, here I'm going to do exactly what I mentioned a minute ago, which I'm going to tell you about a show I saw that I think you should see. But it's a very interesting, it's called Stutz, Stutz. We found it on Netflix, and it's actually a kind of documentary with an actor named Jonah Hill, and the therapist that he ended up with, a guy named Phil Stutz, who is an older guy from grew up in New York City, and he has Parkinson's, and the documentary movie is, you know, Jonah and him talking about how he does his therapy and the tools he uses and things like that. And it's brilliant, and it's very touching and interesting, not very long. So I recommend that. Stutz. Okay, what else we got today? Not only am I late, I'm completely unprepared. By the way, I was going to ask if anybody's actually been reading the 3 Pillars of Zen that I recommended at the beginning of the class. Have you? Any comments about that? Oh, Mark's got his hand up. Go ahead, Mark.
No, well, you know my comment about the 3 Pillars of Zen. I'm not a big fan. But I was thinking about some of the earlier discussion, and particularly if I understood, I think I did, what Madhushi brought up. And it has to do with this feeling that if we can understand something, kind of figure it out, then we'll be okay, or then we'll be on the right path. And it reminded me of a blog that Roshi wrote a few months ago. And the title of it was, if I haven't gotten past your understanding, then I'm not doing my job.
Right.
And the point is, as I understand it, that we're not talking about understanding, and that, I mean, it's inevitable. It's a pitfall that we all come back to also, as well as, start out in. But that need to understand, if we can let go of that, but how? That's what's so difficult. And it did occur to me, and I'm sure it's familiar to Bruce and others, that this is a way that you can use big mind. A voice that I have worked with often with students and with myself is the non-seeking, non-grasping mind. So instead of trying to figure things out, use that as Bruce said, something to own, but also to allow. Because that is a voice that we all have access to, as is true of all the other voices. But I think for those of us who are feeling that pressure to figure things out, and I mean, that's why you're here, that's why I'm doing this too. If we hear more, if we get more insight, somebody else's information, somebody else's experience, we'll be a little bit further along on the path. But that's really not the way, and it's the hardest way. So if we allow ourselves to embrace and own the non-seeking, non-grasping mind, which is our birthright, I think a lot of the problems that arise from trying to figure stuff out and understand things evaporate, at least temporarily. Doesn't mean it's permanent, doesn't mean we don't seek at other times, but allow ourselves to experience that. And I think that answers a lot of the questions that don't need to be so excruciating for us. That's all I want to say.
Great, thanks, Mark. Yeah, that's a voice I've used a lot too. I mean, it's just one that you can go to, sit down in your meditation seat and just sit as the non-seeking, non-grasping mind. It's very relaxing, actually. You're muted, Mark.
Yeah, sorry. I was going to say, because otherwise, if we think there's something we need to accept, there's something we need to change, there's something we need to drop. That's all true, but it's all our thinking, our understanding or misunderstanding or whatever, or it's all just in our dualistic thinking. But if we just allow that, that's a real voice, that's a real part of ourselves that we can get in touch with. You don't have to know anything more, you don't have to accept anything, just try that. And I think it kind of gets you around the problems that we all, kind of create for ourselves intellectually.
And that goes to that, studying with the body and the mind, that kind of practice is really studying with the body, because you're just going into the non-seeking mind and feeling it, having a direct experience of being in that place. So it's very, very important. And Mark, thank you for your review of the 3 pillars of Zen.
Well, maybe I should explain a little bit more. I think my objection, as I've told Bruce, is that, and I was around when that book first came out, and it created a big splash and a lot of interest in Zen. And part of the reason it did was because there's a long section in the book that I'm not sure if these were people that Capello knew, but anyway, it's a collection of kind of reminiscences and stories about people who are having enlightenment experiences. and I think that created a great kind of interest. But I found it, well, in a word, what I call it is Zen porn. And I think it misled a lot of people in creating big expectations. I mean, talk about expectations. If the idea is that, well, you know, until and unless I have this kind of earth-shaking revelation, it's not real. And in a way, that's true, but in a big way, it's not. And most of those stories, I think, would fall into the category of kind of self-delusion, you know. And I think that idea that it comes back to what other people have said this morning, you know, the idea that there's something to get is such a huge obstacle. And that's one of the biggest barriers that we create in talking about Zen, that there's going to be this experience. And everybody who, I mean, you just read a few koans or you just listen to a few teachings and you realize that the idea that we're going to get something, I mean, what you have to get is there's nothing to get. And that's not so easy, but at least if you can kind of buy into that idea, which is not so easy, I recognize, but drop the idea that there's some goal that you're working for. That's what Bruce has been talking about the whole time. But that's a hard thing to do. That's what we, you know, my experience is that's what we're trying to get, is that there's nothing to get.
Well, you know,
really swallow it is a little different. Yeah. Go ahead.
You know, another pitfall of figuring it out is we tend to accept the explanation of what something is rather than having the direct experience of what something is.
Mhm.
And then we think we've got it figured out. So, you know, the classic example about, you know, if you've never eaten an orange and I have, and you ask me what an orange is all about, because you want to figure it out, I can explain all these things about what eating an orange is like. And you might say, okay, I figured it out, and go away, but I had never having actually experienced eating the orange. And in Zen, this is what we constantly stress is don't accept the explanation of something, go for the experience, you know, experience it yourself, bite the orange. And Mark's suggestion of sitting in the non-grasping mind is exactly that, the non-seeking, non-grasping mind. It's like, I can explain to you what it's like to do that, or why it's beneficial, or why you should, you know, all these things. But to do it is to know it and to own it and to have it be a realization that actualizes.
Yeah, and I would emphasize, I mean, the brilliance of Roshi's phrasing of that is the non-seeking, non-grasping mind. So the idea somehow that when we completely embrace non-seeking, that's it. No, but that's why non-grasping is also let that go too, let go. And that, you know, kind of openness at both ends, as it were, is key. Not just not seeking, but also not grasping. And to really experience that, as Bruce is saying, and we do most of the time. Otherwise, we'd be concrete, but we don't appreciate that capacity that we have.
Yeah. And it's the same is true for all the other voices as well, I would say. You know, to sit as the voice of complete acceptance, or to sit as the voice of anger, or to sit as the voice of you know, all this full array is a way to not accept the explanations of those things or what you figured out about those things, but to actually experience and own and let those things work on you. All right. Anybody else want to say anything about the 3 pillars of Zen at all? I kind of agree with Mark about that part, although I say that the actual lectures that are in the kind of the forward part of the book from Yasutani Roshi are quite nice and instructive. And if you've read any of that and you have any questions about any of that, I'd be happy to
And also at the back of the book, there are some short excerpts from Bathui. I think it's
Oh, yeah.
Bathui. And those are wonderful, very brief letters that he wrote back 1,000 years ago. But those are very intriguing and very easy to get into.
Yep. Max, are you there? I see your picture. I know you're in Ukraine.
Yes, hi.
Hi. Hey, where are you in Ukraine?
I'm in Kiev. In Kiev.
Oh, you're Kiev. Okay.
Yes.
How's it going?
Well, it's really tough. Russians bombing our electricity stations. So any second, the lights can be turned off. The internet is not very good. Well, actually, it's 11 months already of war. So we get used to it. I do big mind process to this war, so I'm doing pretty okay. And in some way, this process really helped me. Thanks for your lessons. They helped me also. So it's tough. It's tough, but we get used to it.
Yeah, I hate to think of getting used to that, but I know, you have to adapt and every day, right? So, all right, hang in there. I'm glad to see you. And
Okay.
yeah, good. Did you have any particular questions about anything?
I haven't read this book because this book does not exist in Ukrainian, so only because I'm sorry, I've lost the signal. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh yeah. Well, maybe you can guide me how to. Well, when I'm sitting, when I'm starting to do the practice of sitting, I don't quickly have some, some sense of calmness as I used to have before war. Right now, I'm in complete anxiety all the time that I'm doing my sitting. So maybe you can. I was trying to count my breaths, but frankly speaking, while it's war outside, while I can hear the bombing, it's not actually working. So maybe there's some deeper practices, more advanced practices for sitting meditation when you have such a tough times.
I think there's not anything more deep really than what you're doing. I think there's the continuity and consistency in doing it is maybe more important, to just kind of steadily go and build up a certain samadhi. But the voices that, like the voice that Mark just mentioned, the non-seeking, non-grasping mind is, I think, very effective at just kind of letting go anxiety, letting go worry about expectations, worry about things, and just at least for a few moments. And so if you don't count your breath, just as you sit, take a few deep breaths and say, I am the non-seeking, non-grasping mind, and just sit as that. And even that may be a little difficult at first because it'll be like, well, what is that? But just kind of keep going back to that and try to just drop into that. And you'll have plenty of time to worry about everything else later. So try to take a few moments, even if it's a few minutes, every couple hours or whenever you can, just kind of tap back into that and let that work on you.
I also have one more question.
Yeah.
Some of my friends noticed some sort of peace in my eyes, especially after I do sitting. And maybe you can guide me. How can I simply help others with Zen philosophy, not to, dig deep in that old stuff? Just maybe there's some sort of like guidance what to say about or give some Zen practice and give it really quickly, like, I don't know, maybe counting breath or something like that. So maybe you can help here me.
I would suggest just starting with finding a comfortable, talk to people about finding a comfortable place to sit where they can just breathe and relax and maybe count their breath or speak to the non-seeking mind, or allow that to enter, or the voice of total acceptance, something like that. And if you can get a group together to do it together, that helps. Say, come to my apartment, let's just sit together, quietly, and sit very still and quiet, and just notice your breath, and just start there. I wouldn't get into the philosophy and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just sit together.
Only direct experience.
Yeah. The philosophy part of Zen, and of course there's a huge writing called the Tripitaka, I think it is, and that's kind of Zen philosophy and psychology and stuff. It's like, to me, kind of a detour that can take years away from you. Because it's going back to that figuring it out thing. Okay, and so let's just work on practice from the body a little bit of just settling, letting thoughts come through. Don't try to grab the thoughts, or don't try to seek the meaning of the thoughts, or grasp onto concepts, and just shed and let go, kind of, just for a little while you're meditating. And then, when you're coming out of your meditation, just go back to life as normal, take care of what you have to take care of. And if you kind of go back and forth between those things, that's probably why people saw what they saw in you, is because of what you've already been doing. And that's all that needs to be done, especially at this point. All right.
Yes. And just I want to say big thanks to all of you Americans, because if not you, if not your nation, probably Ukraine wouldn't exist anymore. So thank you very much for your support. Guys, you really saved my country, and I'm so grateful. And every Ukrainian, every morning praying for all of you, that you have such a great country that can help others and give a huge support. So be proud, dear Americans.
Thank you very much. And I think for the Europeans on the call here too, have also pitched in a lot. And I think, there's a lot more work to do. So we'll just hang in together, huh?
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Max.
Thanks.
Pia has her hand up.
Everyone, good morning. Max, I'm so sorry that this is happening to all you people. We all the same. We all, yeah. So I'm so sorry, but I don't know if it's appropriate what I have to share here. But I've talked a lot to Roshi about voice dialogue as well. Max, I was in a flood in Australia. Never happened here before, and we lost cities. And one thing that I know and I was caught in it as well, where houses disappear. The water went up to the roof. So people were sitting on top of the roof, waiting for helicopters to come and take them away. And it's very easy to say in really tough times to go into the voice of whatever, that no mind, when there is a part of us that's so scared of losing our body. And when the landslides were coming my way, and it was last year, for me, the acceptance for me was to accept that I was shit scared, that my vulnerability, but like, wow, I actually have this part in me that's really scared of losing life. And most people don't want to feel that, so they try to get away with that feeling. But for my practice in those days were just to accept that I had this voice and this part of me that was so scared. And the crazy thing is that when I owned that part in me, instead of wanting to get away with it, I owned it. It disappeared. And everything became quiet. And there was acceptance of, wow, I could lose my life here. I mean, we saw cows coming down dead in the water, and I was okay. I was at peace with what was. But it was to accept my humanness first. And I don't know if that can help, but it certainly helped me a lot. Yeah. Because what is in that moment. And the doorway for me was to accept my humanness. Yeah, I don't know if they can be helpful, but yeah. But I what it's like.
Thank you. Maria? Maria, are you there? Or maybe she took her hand down.
Okay.
Oh, there
Can you
you are.
hear me now?
Yes.
I wasn't muted. I wanted to thank you, Pia. I appreciate what you said. It is really helpful. And I also wanted to thank Max for being with us. You all are heroes, and we are with you, with the whole nation. And I wanted also to say that from the astrological point of view, in March, there will be huge changes. And I really hope that it will be the end of the war, because the Putin has really bad charts in the spring. So, thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to say thank you, everyone. And sorry I was late, but I think we had a good day and kind of come to the end of the time. So thanks again. See you next Saturday, or maybe we'll see you on Tuesday or Thursday for those of you who are in the 1-year program. Okay.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.